Tonight on Joy News Prime, yet to be released, Afro-Barometer survey by the Center for Democratic Development, it says, predicts there will be no clear winner in the first round of the 2020 presidential election.
The political parties in a position to win election, that is 50 plus 1 vote.
The survey also indicated a significant number of voters are undecided. Tonight, we've been speaking with people on the streets of Accra who identify themselves amongst the undecided.
No, I'm not sure I'll be voting. I'll be busy doing my own things.
I decided not to vote or to stop voting.
Oh, I'm not sure. I won't vote.
We'll also get the reaction of the two leading political parties. Also in the bulletin, Ochehene and Moitio for repaying lift order, banning executives of the opposition National Democratic Congress from all palaces at Ochemang after the party sent a delegation to apologize for the conduct of one of their executives. Also in the bulletin, teacher unions declare strike over what they say is government's failure to settle arrears owed them dating as far back as 2012.
We are not prepared to see our teachers suffer as a result of somebody's negligence. Choboy.
Hey. In business,
National Communications Authority justifies 100,000 cedi fine imposed on telecommunication giant MTN for recent data billing glitches, insisting the company breached service protocols.
Also directed to ensure to refund all losses that affected consumers had faced. So we also wanted to get a report. Unfortunately, the deadline passed and we still didn't hear anything from MTN.
And Kwabenya police investigate officer accused of fondling the breast of a female occupant of a vehicle during a routine traffic stop Wednesday afternoon.
He just put his hand through the window and then squeezed my breast. He said he was checking for breast cancer.
I'm Mr. Ola. Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlimli here in Accra with digital address GA09925339. Stay tuned in. A yet-to-be-released Afro-Barometer report from the Center for Democratic Development is predicting there will be no clear-cut winner in the 2020 presidential election. Aspects of the report have already highlighted Ghanaians' perception of corruption and the economy, with most people saying they are unhappy with the current situation. Speaking on PM Express Wednesday, a CDD researcher, Newton Noviowu, hinted that yet-to-be-released report shows neither President Akufo-Addo nor former President Mahama will get the 50 plus 1 votes required for a first-round victory, whilst a significant percentage say they are yet to decide who they would vote for.
We don't push out all the findings from the 100 questions to the public. So we put them into thematic areas. And so somewhere last week or last 2 weeks, there was one on the economic conditions.
So what you're saying that answer, the results for that will come out?
When? It will come out.
I want to see it now. I want to see it now.
So that
no, but timing is everything.
Yes.
If you wait till election year and release that, you're in trouble. Because that has a potential of influencing. And the reason why you held on to it, nobody knows. I mean, after tonight that they know that it's there, you'll be getting calls tomorrow.
I can give a teaser, but then...
Give me a teaser.
So the findings does not put any of the political parties in a position to win election. That is 50 plus 1 vote.
But the NDC is ahead, isn't it?
That is a question again that I will not answer.
The two leading political parties have been reacting to the report even before it is released. Speaking on Joy FM's top story, Information Minister Kojo Ponkrumah said the NPP remains confident President Akufo-Addo will win convincingly come December 2020.
What we are aware of is that the Afro-Barometer survey has covered a number of questions. They have released some, and they are yet to release some more. We have a fair sense of where it will go in the end, because looking at the trend so far, we are beginning to see a pattern. Remember, a few days ago, I spoke to you and I said, as you gauge from the trust question, you can begin to predict where it is going to end in the very final analysis. And we will be happy to see what the very final analysis is. They have engaged with us as they have engaged with many other stakeholders. We'll look out for it. Just to quickly say that when you are doing these statistical analysis, you have to be very careful. The University of Ghana survey that you have mentioned talked about a percentage of valid votes. What the Afrobarometer survey is talking about percentage of respondents. From the numbers that we are seeing over a period, we are pretty comfortable. We expect nothing less than a 10% gap between the presidency and the leading opposition party. It is also important to know for those who either refused to answer the question or are genuinely undecided, as in they express that they don't know who they'll vote for. Yes, it will be important to know their historicals, where they swing, and therefore even be able to extrapolate from there. Those will be my preliminary.
Communications Officer for the Opposition National Democratic Congress, Sami Jemfi, on his part, says the party is unperturbed.
If what the CDD is saying is anything to go by, then they are virtually calling the next general election for the NDC. Because what they are saying in effect is that neither the NDC nor the NPP can secure a first-round victory. And we do know that in the history of Ghana, an incumbent has never won a runoff. And so if the CDD is predicting a runoff in 2020, then it goes without saying that the NDC will be the victor in the 2020 general elections, according to this polling by the CDD. Even though we have fundamental challenges with the accuracy, which I'll be addressing, it is a very positive indicator for us. Not because the CDD is saying it, but because it tallies with our own internal polling, it tallies with the general opinions of Ghanaians about Akufo-Addo government. Clearly, Ghanaians are dissatisfied with the increasing levels of corruption under President Akufo-Addo. They are dissatisfied with the increasing and unprecedented levels of nepotism. They are tired of the excruciating hardship they are going through, the abuse of the public purse, and so on and so forth. And so we are not surprised at all that both the Political Science Department, the CDD, and other institutions are indicating that election 2020 is likely to go in a runoff. And we do know that once general elections go for a runoff, opposition parties automatically win.
Out there on the streets of Accra, there were several Ghanaians who said they identify themselves as undecided, with others saying they don't intend to vote because the two leading political parties have failed them.
No, I'm not sure I'll be voting. I'll be busy doing my own things instead of me going to queue to vote for someone that later on they'll be telling all sorts of things. So I'll just do my one corner. I don't think I'll vote. Yes, it's a waste of time. After all, you voting someone in, later on they'll come and tell you all the promises they've been promising us, they don't fulfill it. So I'm not sure I'll vote, actually.
No. It's a decision I took some years ago because our politicians don't think about us. Yeah. Especially with the individuals. They think about themselves alone. Yeah, so I decided not to vote or to stop voting. I voted for NDC before and I voted for NPP before. And between the two parties, I've seen no difference.
I'm not sure. I won't vote. There's no work for us to do, so I'm not sure I'll vote. My real school I'm doing nothing in the house, so I'm not sure I'm going to even ID card come here, Miami. We are suffering the system, so I don't think I'll vote.
No, I'm not going to vote. Tell us why. Because both parties have disappointed us. The leadership of the NDC, the leadership of the NPP have not lived up to their expectations and the promises they gave us throughout the 2016 election. So currently, people are, I'm not alone, a lot of people are also complaining. And then there are a lot of areas where you go, road developments are very, very poor. And then I can't cry my own cry alone. I have to also feel for my other Ghanaians, wherever they are.
No, please.
Why don't you vote?
I'm not voting because I'll be busy around that time. Maybe I'll not even be around at that time. But even if I'll be around, that long queuing and those stuff, I'm not going to join that long queue again. But when I go and there's no queue, maybe. But that long queue to vote, I'll not do it.
Senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Sayed Imam Ali, joins me on the phone for more analysis on this. Thank you very much, Dr. Sayed Mahama. Now, we would be speaking, I'll be seeking your thoughts a bit about the concerns of the people we've been speaking with who say they don't intend to vote because the political parties have disappointed them. So I'll be coming to that. But I first want to pick your thoughts on the finding the CDD survey.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it is not surprising that they said no political party would be able to win an outright victory in 2020. If you look at the strength of the NDC and the MPP, data has shown that both two parties will usually have a combined vote of 88% from their stronghold or supporters. So the NDC and the MPP, if only their party faithfuls vote for them, none of them will be able to get 50+1. So they will hover around 44, 46%. And we know you need 50+1 to be able to win elections. So over the years, victory for these two dominant parties has always come from the floating voters, the rational voters, people who do not naturally belong to either the NDC or the MPP. They don't see themselves as a core membership of these two political parties. So you always see that those are the kingmakers in every election. And because they don't vote based on the dominant party model, they don't look at the party and vote. They look at very substantial, rational, important, essential issues. How those issues, one, affect their lives and their businesses and their progress as individuals, but also how it collectively moves this country forward.
All right.
These are some of the things that they look at.
Dr. Alidu, granted, but we're looking at an election that happened in 2016, just some 3 years ago, and the MPP had all this goodwill, and they won with a very comfortable margin. Where are all those people who went for the MPP?
So there has always been high expectations for political parties that form government. And the MPP had so much confidence and so much goodwill from the people in the 2016 elections. And it's true that since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, we've never had a turnover where they haven't been a second round. The first turnover was in 2000, and there was a runoff. The second turnover was in 2008. There was a runoff. The third turnover, 2016, there was no runoff. So it suggested the level of confidence that people had in the MPP. But once they begin to govern, people now begin to see that the MPP is not that much different from the NDC, or generally politicians usually use it to fend for their own personal interests. So there have been a lot of things the MPP has done right within these 3 years that they've been in government, but there's also been a lot of things that people are not so happy about the way they are doing it, or the promise that they will do it, which they have not been able to do. So over the years, I think for the past 3 years, people have had reasons to be suspicious of the intentions of political parties and politicians. People think to lump both the NDC and the MPP who have been winning elections in the Fourth Republic has always been self-centered. There's no difference between them. And people even think there is very little to benefit from voting. So people now think that it's not just a civic duty for every Ghanaian to vote, but you need to derive a kind of utility from voting. So you elect a government into power, and you expect that the government will create employment. You elect the government into power, you expect that the government will create stability so that people can go about doing their business. You elect the government into power and expect that the government will stabilize the economy. So that is the general utility that people want to see.
Now, Dr. Ali, would you say that is the reason why we have a significant number, according to the CDD yet to release survey, that a significant number of Ghanaians are deciding that they are not going to vote because they don't know who to decide? They are neither for the NDC or the MPP.
Yeah, so I think we can look at them from two categories. One, we have those who said they will not vote at all, apathy, and then we have to look at those who said, I have not yet decided. So they could either be undecided or they are just saying they won't vote no matter what. If they are undecided, they can still make up their mind before December 2020. And it depends on how political parties will repackage themselves and attract these voters to them. But once they say they will not vote at all, they could persuade them, they could rebrand themselves, but those people can cause a lot of upset. So we need to know whether those who said they won't vote, they are completely not voting in terms of apathy, or they are undecided and they'll still make up their mind on the lineup. So once the findings come out, we should be able to know which group they belong to. And political parties can take advantage of research like that, repackage themselves, and warm up to this group of people to be able to convince them to change their mind. So it's still a kind of a two-horse race moving into 2020, and political party will have to rebrand, recreate the impression that they are far better than the other, and then be able to make people, Ghanaian electorate, attract Ghanaian electorate to themselves through promises and confidence and trust that they are completely lacking in this political party.
All right. Thank you very much. Senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Sayed Imam Ali. And moving on, visiting South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has extended a special invitation to Ghanaians to come and trade, invest and live in his country. The invitation comes on the back of xenophobic attacks targeted mainly at other Africans, which was widely condemned across the continent. The visiting South African president, whilst conceding the attacks are condemnable and promised they are being dealt with, stated that the actions of a minority of South Africans should not drag the image of the country into the mud. At least 12 people were killed and hundreds arrested in August this year after mobs attacked foreign-owned shops in Johannesburg and Pretoria. The attacks are fueled by the belief that foreigners, mainly migrants from other African countries, were to blame for South Africa's socio-economic woes. The South African president has been addressing a joint news conference with his host at Jubilee House. Presidential correspondent Elton Brobe reports.
And South Africa has committed to a deal during this one-day visit of the South African president to Ghana. Now, the communique, a bi-national commission on trade, investment, cultural exchange, sports, as well as leadership, were agreed upon by the two leaders, President Akufo-Addo and Cyril Ramaphosa. But the key issue on the agenda was what South Africa is doing to ensure that they prevent further xenophobic attack on foreigners working in South Africa. Now, these are the words of the South African president at the joint news conference between him and President Akufo-Addo.
The issue of the attacks that occurred in our country earlier this year was an occurrence that pained us a great deal as South Africans. We were deeply pained, and it was for that reason that I dispatched a number of envoys around the continent, and they came here to Ghana and received a warm welcome from President. And in the end, this is a matter that is part of the migration challenge that the whole continent is facing. And it just so happened that we handled the sharp end of it, where people were killed, many of them South Africans. At the time, 10 people were killed, 8 South Africans and 2 who were Zimbabweans. And that for us is totally unacceptable. And we've said it over and over again. We are totally against any form of violence that is perpetrated against people from other nations. South Africa is open to all people on our continent to come, to visit, and to trade, to do business, to live. So we say we remain open in that regard. And we've started our own process of raising the level of awareness and consciousness among South Africans about how best we should relate to people from other nations, how we should treat them, respect them, and welcome them. This is going to increase people-to-people linkages between our two countries. And as we look forward to the finalization of the visa regime that we are putting in place to allow Ghanaians to come to South Africa on a free visa basis, we want to finalize this as quickly as possible so that the people-to-people relations between our two nations can be greatly enhanced. President, we also want to thank you for being in support of South Africa as South Africa accedes to being the chair of the African Union. We know that we can count on Ghana's support in this regard.
President Akufo-Addo praised the South African president for showing strong leadership.
The sincerity of the statements that he's making now, for me, was borne out by the fact that he did something which is quite unprecedented after the events in South Africa. He sent around the continent. We came here, a delegation led by a very respected member of his government and ANC family, to come and, if you like, apologize to the countries that have been affected by these incidents. You don't get that sort of gesture from a statesman too often in our world. I don't know what other occasion we've seen a political leader initiate such a process. And I was very reassured when the delegation came here, and the message they brought, that he had sent them to come and express to, not just to me, but to people of Ghana, their deep apologies for the incidents in which some Ghanaians were affected. And I think that when a political leader takes that kind of initiative, you would then have to credit him.
Once again, break here on Joy News Prime. Still ahead in the bulletin, Kwabenya police investigates officer accused of fondling the breast of a female occupant of a vehicle during a routine traffic stop Wednesday afternoon.
Put his hand through the window and then squeezed my breast. He said he was checking for breast cancer.
The police of Kwabenya is investigating allegations of sexual misconduct on the part of one of its officers said to have fondled the breast of a female passenger in a rented vehicle. The complainant, who would not want to be named, says the officer had stopped her during a routine traffic check on the Gimpa-Hacho stretch here in Accra on Wednesday afternoon, walked right to her window and groped her breast. When she questioned why, she said the police officer told her he was checking for breast cancer. She has been telling her story to my colleague PCA Nane Asafo.
Wednesday, December 4, a commercial vehicle was forced to stop at the command of a patrol officer on duty on the Gimpa-Hacho stretch in Accra. According to one of the passengers, we choose to call Ifia, what began as a routine check quickly turned into something else.
I was sitting directly behind the driver. So when he got there, he just put his hand through the window and then squeezed my breast. So out of shock, I was like, police officer, why would you squeeze my breast? He said he was checking for breast cancer.
Jifa, her co-passenger, could not believe her eyes.
I was shocked and she was as well. So I was like, are you okay? Where is your warrant to do such? He made a statement, was like, he
threatened to come to you?
Yes, and I told him, try it and you would see. And he was like, if I tried, what would you do to me? So it got me angry and we all got down from there. So it turned into a heated argument.
But all that was just the beginning of a very confusing situation.
He was like, we should get out of here, sit in the car and move. And I said, no, I'm not moving from here. I need an explanation from him. He said, I can go to the highest court. He will make the case a foolish case, that he is a police officer. He was smelling of alcohol, but not drunk like the one holding the rifle.
Two drunk police officers?
Yes, but the other one holding the rifle didn't harass us.
Another female passenger also alleged she was harassed that day.
When it came to us, he just went to the driver like, hey, we okay? And the driver was like, okay. He left the front to the back seat. We were two ladies there. Both of us used lens. So she took her lens and my colleague was like, mine is even better. She can't see at all without the glass. So her eyes was closed and he took mine as well. He was like, why are we both using the lens?
The young women, who are journalists, have reported the matter to the Ghana Police Service. District Commander Superintendent Combat Damonting of the Kwabenya District Police Headquarters says active investigations have begun, adding the matter will not be taken lightly.
We'll investigate to the latter and ensure that justice prevails. So I am assuring the complainant fear to relax. She should have confidence in the Kwabenya Police Command that the complaint that she lodged will be investigated fairly and we put justice where it belongs.
Chief Executive Officer of Media 7, the Press House in Accra, Dr. Kweku Baini, hopes justice will be served to deter other officers.
Joint news from the perspective that they are covering this content, I really support. We that serve the public should ensure that we operate under certain code of conduct. We are here to protect the public, but not to harass them, not to put them in a place where they will not feel that they are not part of this particular beautiful, blessed country. And what the commander said, I endorse what he said, that justice will be put right. I'll take an opportunity to advise everyone that you should desist these kind of attitudes.
The officer in question is yet to give an official statement on the matter.
The Ochehene Osagyefo Motio for repaying has lifted an order placed by the Achimibwakwa Traditional Council directing all chiefs within the Traditional Council not to engage the leadership of the NDC and their allies in any palace within his jurisdiction. He has also directed Ochimang to forgive and forget a distasteful statement made against him by the NDC Ashanti Regional Secretary Kwame Zu. The decision to forgive the NDC came after the national chairman of the party, Samuel Fosu-Ampofo, led Kwame Zu and Ambassador Victor Smith, Betty Moldidrisu, and other regional and constituency executives of the Buakwat South constituency to apologize. Our Eastern Region correspondent Maxwell Kudako reports.
The NDC delegation had an initial closed-door meeting with the Achimibwakwa Traditional Council, chaired by the Ochehema Nana Educhuma Dokuya, and later visited at Bonsamboso, where rituals are performed. Libation was poured and a sheep sacrificed to pacify the gods. But for the intervention of some chiefs and elders of the palace, some agitated youth and residents of Chebi would have attacked Kwame Zu while the pacification was ongoing. Leadership of the NDC went into a second meeting with the Traditional Council with the expectation to meet the Ochehene, but that did not happen because the Ochehene was engaged in another meeting. However, the Traditional Council proposed a fine of 98 sheep and 98 boxes of schnapp, which was later reduced to 48 sheep and 48 boxes of schnapp in the absence of the Ochehene. Barima Dako Ampem is Chebi Jasehene. The Traditional Council consulted the Ochehene in camera over the decision taken. The Ochehene ordered them to forgive Kwame Azu and set him free. He annulled the fine and asked him to go and sin no more. Chairman Fosu-Ampofo spoke with the media after the meeting.
Gone through the Ochimai, Dantwahe, and then we managed to secure a day today, and then we have come and they have accepted our apology. The necessary rites have been performed to reverse whatever statements that were made on that day. And so today the Ochehene has indicated that it has no problem with the NDC. The NDC is also saying that we have no problem with Ochehene, and by extension Ochimai. Ochehene is celebrating his 20th anniversary of installment on the throne, and we believe that we need an atmosphere of peace and tranquility, goodwill, and prayer for him to succeed for the ensuing years ahead of him. So we have agreed, and as he has extended an invitation to us, I will convey it to the leader and flag bearer of the party for us to fully participate in the 20th anniversary celebration to cement the relationship between we as a party and Ochimai, because the
Ochehene also advised Kwame Zu to show respect to elders and traditional authorities. Osagyefo Motio hinted that he remains a father for all political parties, recounting the cordial relationship he had with all the presidents under the Fourth Republic. Barima Kofi Ejetwene is Jantwahene of Achimibwakwa.
The NDC executives followed Kwame Zu because he's part of them, and they wouldn't allow him alone to come and face this. So it wasn't it wasn't a matter with NDC as such. It was Kwame Zu, but NDC people followed him. For me as Jantwan, that's what he told me, and that's what I believe. And Ochenyi has also stated that, okay, he has forgiven Kwame Zu and to chief.
Kwame Zu was whisked away through the back door of the palace by armed policemen to avoid a mob attack by the aggressive youth who were waiting for him in front of the palace.
Teacher unions in Ghana have declared a nationwide strike effective Monday, December 9, 2019, over the failure of government to pay the legacy arrears of their members dating back to 2012. According to the Ghana National Association of Teachers, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, government's lackadaisical attitude towards the issue smacks of disrespect for the country's teachers. NAC President Philippa Lassing told journalists in Accra on Thursday they were not going to continue paying the price for government's negligence.
The GS claimed that 1, some teachers were paid on ranks they were not on. 2, some teachers had no personal records on the payroll between 2012 and 2014. 3, that some teachers were not owed any arrears at all, yet were credited with huge sums of money. 4, some teachers were employed as pupil teachers, but were paid as senior superintendents. 5, some female employees were to be paid night watchman allowances.
Madam Lassen said their members will not return to the classroom until they were paid.
We are not prepared to see our teachers suffer as a result of somebody's negligence. Choboy, hey. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, as we talk to you this moment, our plea has fallen on deaf ears, and the status quo remains. We can't continue to tolerate this. Indeed, for how long shall they ignore our members, the teachers, the purveyors of education, and expect us to continue to look on? We can't stand this anymore. Chobwe! Hey. Chobwe! Hey. Chobwe! Hey. In light of this development, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, National Association of Graduate Teachers, Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana, do hereby declare today a strike action by our members, effective Monday, 9th December 2020.
The National Association of Radiographers in Ghana is calling on owners of health facilities to desist from engaging unqualified individuals or non-clinical health professionals to operate radiological installations. According to the association, many of such people give patients who walk to their facilities to have x-rays and ultrasound and imagery wrong diagnoses that ultimately pose a threat to them. The association is therefore calling on the allied health facilities and facility regulatory authorities in the country to check the growing phenomenon to avert further disasters. Richard Kojonyako has more.
The National Association of Radiographers in Ghana, the safety of many patients who visit health facilities to have x-rays, ultrasound and imagery diagnostics may be at risk. This is because there are individuals performing these activities who are not qualified to do so. Such individuals, according to the association, have put many lives at risk and are still doing so. Speaking at the 124th anniversary of the association in Cape Coast, the national president of the association, Prince Roxon, expressed worry about the phenomenon. He wants authorities and owners of the radiographical installations to desist from engaging unqualified individuals, since it's against the law to practice without being registered.
Because we have a lot of unqualified people in the country, and these people are posing threats to the life of our people. We are saying that the numbers are in. Let all those private facilities not go for money and think that they want cheap labor, and then it affects the livelihood of our patients. The x-rays that we don't see does not mean it doesn't have effects. They have serious detrimental effects. But because we are not seeing it, people try to do anything. But this time around, the law and the way the profession is growing, we are red alert to make sure that these facilities will not have it easy using unqualified people. We want to assure our mothers, our fathers, our pregnant mothers that look, the ultrasound that we are going to be doing for you, they should be safe. We are going to sack those people who are giving you the wrong diagnosis and saying that you have ectopic, you go and open up a patient and there's no ectopic. It is not right. So we are going to make sure all these things will be a thing of the past.
Central Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Alexis Nangbe Fuba, asked health service providers to help guard the profession zealously.
It's imperative that we as professionals contribute to the guarding of our profession for which we have labored to become who we are. And here I'm considering the issue of quacks. Please let us come together and support HIFRA. HIFRA has its own limitations. You will notice that most of the offenses are done by my professional colleagues. And I'm sorry about that. Most doctors, as soon as they have an ultrasound machine, they put it somewhere in the marketplace or in the garage somewhere and start practicing. We must all just be civil. Stay in your lane and do what you are allowed to do. But this, Mr. Chairman, all will depend on what you contribute to the law.
Currently, there are 300 radiographers in the country, an improvement over the existing number. The association is thus urging health facilities to use such people to undertake such critical service in the various health facilities across the country. Richard Kwejonya, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Members of Parliament have lauded farmers in the country for their invaluable contribution to the growth of the economy ahead of the commemoration of National Farmers' Day on Friday. The commendations poured in after Minister of Food and Agriculture, Owusu Afriyie-Akoto, congratulated the farmers. He urged Ghanaians to consume locally produced foods, as this would be the best reward for the farmers.
The theme for the celebration is, and I quote, enhancing small-scale agriculture towards agribusiness development, unquote. This aligns with a vision of transforming agriculture and a new emphasis on agribusiness. Indeed, farmers all over the country have embraced the Planting for Food and Jobs campaign, and they are reaping the rewards, Mr. Speaker. The bumper harvest last year bore ample testimony to this. This year, the signs are on the wall. Potentially, there will be massive rice, maize, and soya production together with other selected crops. And so we all need to brace ourselves for the coming harvest. Mr. Speaker, not only that, but more importantly, we must consume what we grow, since it is the best way to honor our farmers. Government, for its part, is doing the needful by investing massively in agriculture. This is attested to by the building of warehouses, importation of farm machinery, and for the first time, handheld equipment to reduce the drudgery experienced by smallholders.
The 35th edition of the National Best Farmers Day celebrations is on the theme Enhancing Small-Scale Agriculture Towards Agri-Business Development. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu says it is unacceptable for Ghana to import over $450 million worth of rice within a year, adding governments must show enough commitment to support farmers for the country to become self-sufficient in rice production.
The farmers are scrambling, just looking for an opportunity for a combined harvester to be able to harvest rice. I've heard, Minister, you've made a pronouncement on government determination to end importation of rice. It remains unacceptable to us collectively as a country that every year we spend $450 million on rice importation. Whilst we want to respect trade protocols with WTO, with ECOWAS and others, what is it that we are doing to increase domestic rice production? Even as you talk about the buffer stock and others, it's not enough. Mr. Speaker, I've had an experience where in a particular year, I do rice and granule farming sometimes. When we harvested the rice, it took me 1 year to be able to sell until Avanage came and picked and choose just a few, and the rest we're not interested in those particular species. So, Minister, yes, we will support you, but to reduce rice importation, we must be self-sufficient in this production as a country and ready to feed ourselves and change attitude to consume locally produced Ghanaian rice and respect international protocols in respect of it.
MP for Ifutu Alexander Afenyo-Marking commended government for establishing factories and for its support to farmers.
I'm celebrating the farmers and I'm commending the effort of government in making sure that our farmers are now proud of being farmers. That the rice farmers, the minister was able to put in place measures to ensure that our farmers got the necessary gains from their investment. How did the government do so? Through recruitment of extension officers. Again, the minister made sure that this time around, the fertilizers got to the farmers. And Mr. Speaker, all those farmers who took advantage must be congratulated. And I'm hereby congratulating them for taking advantage of government policy and making sure that today we have rice in abundance.
Well, in another development, the Peasant Farmers Association has released a statement saying that they don't think there's anything to celebrate on Farmers' Day. And they say that it will be ridiculous for its members to observe this year's Farmers' Day celebrations when most of them are battling with post-harvest losses and lack of market. For PFAG, there is nothing to celebrate when some members are still counting their losses. The association that represents the majority of smallholder farmers in Ghana said in a press release issued on Wednesday. The FAG, however, commended government for setting aside a day to appreciate farmers' role in the growth and development of the country. Now, rising costs of goods and services is taking a toll on cost of poultry feed and other inputs. Farmers say they now spend up to 30 Ghana cedis to raise a single bird to maturity. Previously, they used to spend between 20 and 22 Ghana cedis. That was a month ago. Our reporter Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin examines how this will affect the cost of chicken.
I was a hardware dealer before I ventured into the farming, so I invested the money on me into the business. If you want to venture into this business, you have to have enough money because things are difficult. If you don't have money, your business will not flourish.
Kofi Entry started his farm with 2,000 birds 7 years ago. Now he has 7,000, from which he collects 170 crates of eggs daily. The 51-year-old acknowledges the capital-intensive venture is profitable.
Sometimes we make profit from the sale of the eggs. I am able to get between 170 and 180 crates of eggs a day, and customers rushed to buy them. But sometimes I hardly get people to come and buy. Yesterday, for instance, I had a lot of eggs, but no one came to buy. I had to beg someone to buy them on credit.
Mr. Entry has no regrets going into poultry farming, but he says growing cost of production is becoming a disincentive.
I am not going to quit this business. I still have hopes because almost every business has its challenges. I am not going to base on these challenges and quit.
He says it takes a minimum of 30,000 cedis to raise 1,000 birds.
To raise a single bed, you would need 30 cedis.
This will get 30,000. Not done ready.
So if you want to start with 1,000 bears, you will need about 30,000 cedis. If it is 500 bears, then you would have to spend 15,000 cedis till they begin to lay eggs.
Construction of average-sized structures for the birds will cost at least 15,000 cedis.
If you want to start with 1,000 bears, you need at least 15,000 cedis to raise a structure for them.
Ms. Entry is also worried about importation of birds due to unreliable sources of day-old chicks.
The problem is almost all the raw materials are imported. Even the day-old chicks are imported from Holland because those from Kumasi are not the best.
Nonetheless, Ms. Entry is undeterred even in the face of falling demand for the price of eggs. Mahmoud Mohammed Uddin's report for Joy News.
My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.